Hello guys, welcome to a new video. In today's video, we're gonna review Sony Nex 6 mirrorless camera. So guys, this is a very compact mirrorless camera. This was launched in 2013 and this camera can shoot full HD 60 frame per second videos and it features a 16 megapixel sensor. Before we further go into the video, if you are new to my channel, consider subscribing it and don't forget to press the notification icon. So as you can see, this is a very compact camera. If you talk about the weight of this camera, it's around 344 grams. So super lightweight, and in terms of the size as well, it is so small. It can fit very easily in your jacket. So it is a very good camera if you want a camera for traveling, which is very lightweight and compact and easy to use. So as I already told you, this camera has a 16 megapixel sensor. This was launched in 2013, so it's almost 9-year-old. And it is mostly a photographic centric camera because this camera has an EVF. And it's a pretty nice EVF, 2.36 million dot EVF, which works really very nicely. So if you are in a very bright situation, so this will come very handy. You can just hold it to your eye and take really nice photos. Also, having an EVF is better because when you are using the EVF to take photo, it gives your camera extra stability. Cameras without EVF, in which you have to just hold it in your hand and just frame it using the screen, so those can lead to camera shake and result in lesser sharper pictures or motion blur in the picture. But this is really nice photographic centric camera because this also have dedicated dials for aperture and shutter speed. So we have like one dial over here, and then we also have another dial over here, using which you can adjust the shutter speed and aperture using those two dials in the fully manual mode. If you talk about the ISO range on this camera, it goes from 100 to 25,600. So it is really very nice camera. When it comes to low lighting situation, it performs very well in low lighting situations. So you can definitely use this camera if the lighting is fading, but I would recommend using this mostly in day lighting situation or maybe in evening. In extremely low lighting situation, this can result in very grainy image. So that is one downside to it. But if you are using 50mm f1.8 lens, so even in low lighting situation, you can get very good images with this camera. If you talk about the image quality on this, it is really very awesome. The dynamic range on this camera is around 13.1, so it is a very good dynamic range, so you can get very nice landscape photos. So definitely you can use this camera for landscape photos. And the autofocus system on the camera is very nice as well. It has 99 autofocus points, and for the photography it works very well, and even for the videography it is very nicely. It is able to track your face very easily. And if you are using this lens that I have currently on this 1650 power zoom lens, so this lens is virtually silent, so you can definitely use this for video. It won't hunt like crazy, it won't make any focus noise, and the focus transition from one place to another is also very smooth. So definitely a really good video camera. Now let's talk about the video aspects on this camera. So this camera can shoot full HD video up to 60 frames per second. The only downside to this camera is that it does not have a external mic input, so you cannot connect an external mic to this camera. So because of that, you are sort of restricted in how you can capture your audio. You will have to rely on an external recorder and then later on sync the video and audio in the post processing. And another downside to this camera is that it has a tilting screen like this. So for certain individuals, this might actually be a good thing. If you prefer to be behind the camera, then you will actually prefer having this kind of a screen. But if you are someone who film yourself or if you vlog, then you definitely need a flip out screen or a flip up screen so that you can see yourself in the frame. So that is one drawback I see with this camera. However, this screen is pretty nice. It's 3-inch screen. Even though it is not a touch screen, but you can very easily navigate through the menus using these buttons and dials. If I talk about the frame per second on this camera, it can shoot 10 frames per second. So definitely in that regard, it is higher compared to many of the DSLRs. So you can definitely shoot some kind of a event, like for example if your kid is playing sports at his school, so definitely you can cover using this camera because of the higher frame per second, guys. The battery life, as is the case with most of the mirrorless camera, is not that great. You would be very lucky if you get more than 200 shots if your battery is fully charged. So consider having an extra battery so that once your main battery dies, you can use your spare battery. And for the movie, hardly it will last for like 1 hour. Couple of other good features that this camera has is that it has built-in wireless, so you can control this camera using an Sony app on your smartphone. So using your smartphone, you will be able to see what the camera is saying. You will be able to take pictures, download them and share it on the social media. Beside that, guys, this camera also have exposure bracketing, so that is very useful if you want to take high dynamic range photos. So you can take multiple exposure shots and later on combine them in Lightroom to create a high dynamic range photo. Now let me show you how this camera looks from close-up. So from the back, the camera looks like this. As I told you, this is a tilting screen, so this can tilt like this. It's a very thin camera. You can see how thin it is, and it has a pop-on flash which is very flexible. So this is how you open the flash, and you can tilt this flash in any direction. So you can tilt it towards the roof, and then you can bounce the light off the ceiling to create better images. From the top, it looks like this. So it has a mode dial here, and you can see there is another dial below the mode dial using which you can adjust your aperture, shutter speed, etc. And then you also have another dial over here. So it is a really good camera when it comes to photography, and the EVF is over here. And from the bottom, it looks like this. So the SD card actually goes inside this battery compartment. And from the front, it looks like this. So you can see how compact this camera is. It's a perfect camera when it comes to travel photography. Now I'm gonna put onto the screen some of the sample photos that I've taken with this camera, and all the photos that I took were using this 16-50 power zoom kit lens. And this lens is actually a very good lens. The sharpness is pretty good. The colors, contrast, everything come out to be very well. As I already told you, this camera has a really nice dynamic range. So all the photos that I have taken, they have really nice contrast between the brighter areas and the darker areas. If you are shooting in RAW, later on in the Lightroom, you can pull the highlights down, and you can bring up the shadows, and you can take really nice dynamic range photos. Overall, I'm really pleased with the photographs that I've taken with this camera. Even in very bright situation, using the EVF, I was able to take really nice photos. Yeah, if you're using this camera in slightly low lighting situation, you would see those grainy effect in the EVF. So that is one downside to this camera, but what else can you expect, because this is a 9-year-old camera. Overall, for photography, definitely you can use this camera and get really great results even today. Now I'm gonna put onto the screen some of the sample videos that I've taken with this camera, and as I already told you, the videos also look really awesome, and the autofocus works perfectly fine and tracks your face and everything very well. Hello guys, the audio that you are listening is from the built-in mic on this camera, and you can already see the video looks really nice. The colors, the contrast and the sharpness is pretty good in the video. Even the autofocus is very snappy. Like if I focus from one place to another, it is very quick in grabbing the focus, and the focus transition is pretty smooth. If I zoom all the way on this tree, and now if I grab the focus, you can see the sharpness and details that you see in the tree, and the colors, and the background blur is also pretty nice and snappy. So you can see how good background blur you can get. Right now I'm focused on the flowers, and they are looking very sharp, and the camera is grabbing the focus on its own even though these leaves are moving, and overall the video quality looks very good. So the only downside is that it doesn't have a flip out screen, and it does not have an external mic input. But if you prefer to be behind the camera, you make cinematic videos, then this camera is a perfect choice for you. It will cover all your needs for cinematic videos, and it can also take great photos. And since this camera has Sony E mount, it is exactly the same mount that you have on the Sony a6000, a6100 and Sony full frame mirrorless camera. So you can use all the lenses from Sony if you have this camera. Even the professional lenses and the more expensive lenses, everything will work on this tiny camera. Essentially this camera is pretty much similar to a6000. Even the build quality, the size and the features are exactly almost same as a6000. The only difference is that a6000 have a 24 megapixel sensor, but other things are almost identical in this camera. Now let me talk about for how much price can you get this camera. So you can get this camera used for around 150 to 200 US dollar depending on the condition of the camera, along with this 16 to 50 kit lens, power zoom lens. And should you go for this camera in 2022? I would say definitely yes, because this is still one of the cheapest mirrorless camera that you can get, because many other mirrorless camera that you can buy will not have this EVF. So they are not that good for photography, but within like 200 US dollar range, you can get this camera which have an EVF and you can take great photos. So this will cover all your photography need. You are able to get awesome photos with this, and even you can make great videos with this. If you want to film yourself, you will have to actually pair your mobile phone using the Sony app, and then you will be able to see yourself in the frame. That way you can blog as well, or you can make videos for YouTube and you can record the audio externally. So for 150 to 200 US dollar price, if you can get this camera, this would be a very great choice for you to enter the world of Sony mirrorless cameras. You can start learning photography on this camera. You can learn the benefits of using a mirrorless camera, and later on when you have progressed, you have learned a lot of things, you can maybe upgrade to a more recent and new body from Sony. You can build your collection of lenses, because all the lenses that would work on this camera will also work on future Sony camera as well. Alright guys, I hope you like my video. If you like the video, please share it. It will motivate me to make more such useful content for you. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and press the notification icon. I will see you in a new video.